All right, so welcome back to another episode of Fast Casual Nation, the podcast. This, of course, is the show that talks about all innovations, brands, leaders, and ideas that are kind of shaking up the fast casual restaurant segment. I'm your host, Paul Barron, and today we're going to be going into kind of a little bit of a shift. We're going to be talking about food, technology, and the to-go business and how it all kind of comes together. And I've got Steve Schulze with me, who is the CEO and co-founder of Nekter Juice Bar. Great to have you, Steve.
Paul, great to be here, and I look forward to our conversation today. I think we'll hopefully learn a few things and have a little bit of fun along the way. So
for sure. Yeah, so Steve, let's learn a little bit about the brand Nekter and kind of how you guys got going. You're a very stylish brand, obviously a Southern California brand, but kind of what was the genesis of how you got started?
The genesis, the way we started, which is in 2010, and at that time we saw a proliferation of the traditional markets from a Ralph's to Whole Foods shifting into a Whole Foods, Mother's Market, Trader Joe's, things of that nature. Simultaneously, when you looked in our space and you looked at the legacy brands, what you had found is over a period of time, they'd commoditized and to a certain degree bastardized what their initial mission was. I believe the legacy brands started out with great intention, but as time goes on, it gets to be a slippery slope. And so we set out to simplify the menu. We went from a whimsical look to a more of a modern farmhouse. We went to a look that was important for lighting, music, seating, an experiential environment. And then most importantly, we wanted to have items that not only were good for you, but also tasted good. And then finally, we wanted things that were accessible to, so that anybody that aspired to it, juicing we didn't want juicing to be associated with an elitist type experience.
So obviously in building a brand, you're now 10 years old, I think 160 locations. You've kind of made it over the hump, and I'm always interested in hearing that story from founders of some of the things that they kind of ran into in terms of challenges throughout that early era of building a brand, especially with a brand like yours, very stylish, brand forward, lots of imagery. What were some of the do's and don'ts that you've kind of found over the last 10 years that have helped you build Nekter to where it is?
Yeah, we've learned a lot, and obviously, like any brand, we've made a lot of mistakes. I think that you always hear the phrase that people grow too fast. We went through an experience in which we did grow too quickly, and we took the core locations, we doubled in size. We spread out the talent that we had. Instead of spreading it out among 10 locations, it spread within 20, and the guest experience went down, and it took a while to recover from that.
Sure.
From a franchise perspective, I think that we were very deliberate, and we handled that in the right way, in the sense of in 2012, we decided to test the franchise model. We awarded 6 franchises, and then we sat on it for 2 years. And the reason for that is I wanted to see what that relationship was going to be like. It was an iterative relationship. Would they carry the brand standards? How would the sales and the experience be, and so forth? And after 2 years, it turned out many of the franchise locations had higher sales, better guest experience, better mystery shops, better reviews. And so therefore, we took about the next year to go ahead and implement a franchise strategy. And I think that this is, again, a place where people make a lot of mistakes. And one mistake that we did not make, in the sense of I've always believed in building whatever brand it is and whatever you do, is you have to build a foundation and you've got to grow centrically. And what I mean by that is for Nekter, we had 3 locations in Orange County, and then we grew and filled it in once we proved that market. We went to San Diego, the same thing. We went to Phoenix, we put 3 locations, now we have 20. Whereas a lot of brands you see today, unless it's a race for real estate, like some of the sandwich and pizza concepts, but you see way too many brands go from Orange County and they have or the East Coast and they have an inquiry and they put one location in Idaho and one in Minnesota and one in Houston. There's just no brand awareness. You can't take care of this. Supply chain is very problematic. Costs get too high and all sorts of issues come up. So.
Yeah, marketing, the whole thing. You mentioned there that your franchise system actually were performing well. Now, that's not indicative of most franchise systems. Franchise systems are usually really hard work, grinding every day, day in, day out to make sure they maintain all the brand standards, stay up with kind of the cream of the crop. What was it that made your franchisees so different that they were actually outperforming or really high performers in terms of the overall brand of Nekter?
Two things. One is we're very selective on the franchise process. Two, we want people that are legitimately engaged in that lifestyle. That's a driving passion behind what
Okay.
we do. And then three, also you've got to be engaged in that community. If all of a sudden you're doing it just for money and you want to make
Sure.
X amount of dollars, that's just not something that we've turned down many franchisees, multi-unit included, for that specific reason. So.
Very interesting. So, Steve, when you look at real estate, let's kind of jump into that for a second. I've had discussions with executives quite a bit about this topic, and many of them attribute the growth of fast casual over the last decade to great real estate selection. Curious how you guys go about selecting real estate. Obviously, with your brand, very stylish, kind of has that consumer curb appeal. Real estate must be a super important topic for you.
I think real estate is important for anybody. I think that for us, we were very conscientious, even our first location without much experience, in the sense of, traditionally today, a lot of the retailers' food will go into an inline center. They've got a daily needs of a grocer and pharmacy and such. Our first location was basically a standalone location for 10 to 15 years. It had been a local coffee shop named Dietrich's. This is in the early 90s, where people were, on their hardback books and doing their paperwork from college and such. And that's what inspired the development of Juice, in the sense of Starbucks had purchased Dietrich's and the space was then empty. And then the concept came, hey, can we recreate that same experience from the early 90s, but do it in a healthy way, which is what we did. But then if you move forward into where we are today, it's evolving dramatically. If you look at Starbucks as an example, it's all about, the smell, the aroma, the Italian, the experience. And then it was drive-through, about speed of service. And now you see, Starbucks with the 500-foot testing of the to-go models. And as we were discussing, the traditional inline centers, the Amazon effect and fewer people going to the center are very impactful to the bottom line, as our delivery services, which we can probably get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
So I think that you really have to have a reason on why somebody's coming into your location. What is that experience that they're going to provide, besides simply a good juice or a good smoothie or a good acai bowl? So the experience, from the music to the seating to the lighting to a variety of different factors, are critical to be able to drive that consistent traffic.
Yeah, I like the fact.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you're connecting lifestyle to kind of how the brand affinity is designed itself to where you're going to place the real estate itself. What markets have you found that are doing really well for your brand? Some brands fit super well in certain markets and maybe have some mismatches in others. What seems to be working for you guys?
It's very interesting. I'm a huge believer in proof of concept, and when we first started, after a number of years, I wanted to be in 5 different locations with climates and such. Meaning, we've got Southern California, obviously. Arizona mirrors that to a certain degree, but I wanted to go up to Colorado and in other parts of the country to see what we meant to them, because I think most people misinterpret that they can go ahead and just force a brand onto somebody else. And the reality is, it's the guest and the consumer that really define who you are, and then it's your job to cater to that. And so when you go into Colorado, as an example, we're considered a lifestyle brand. Most of the yogurt, ice cream, a lot of legacy juice brands are more of a treats brand. So their season will start spring break to Labor Day. Our season starts January 1st. It goes until about mid-October and then slows down after. But the goal really is to, January 1st comes, we have our New Year's resolutions. We want to get in shape, lose weight, and so forth. And they use Nekter as an impetus for that. And it's not as impactful. We do very well in Vancouver, Washington. We do well in Colorado, so Minneapolis, and places like that, where traditionally you're not going to see treats brands do as well, because there's just an association with a smoothie or a milkshake or whatever in January. For us, it's more of a lifestyle, and we're continuing to evolve what we believe that lifestyle and the next shift is in that lifestyle.
Yeah. So on locations, you guys have extended into Whole Foods. Tell us a little bit about that partnership. How does it work?
So Whole Foods partnership, about a year ago, they started to do some due diligence as it related to the, shift from Whole Foods to the Amazon, impact of it, and they started to interview a variety of different, concepts for Southern California and Arizona. We were chosen as the, after a period of time or a process, I guess. They originally wanted to do 10 locations. I scaled it back to 5. Just again, I really think that if anybody's watching this, so to speak, it doesn't matter what brand you have. Just because one location works doesn't mean that second location is going to work, and so forth. And store within a store is sometimes a difficult process. I do believe that the demographics and what people are looking for in Whole Foods matched up to us very well. But rather than do 10 locations, I wanted to do 5 locations. I wanted to do it where we had our fundamental infrastructure. And then what I wanted to do, and they agreed with us when we were down in Austin and meeting with them, what I felt was important was a regular communication. And we look at it at 3 months, we look at it at 6 months, find out what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and then refine the process and system. And if we feel it is a viable platform in which we want to roll out, and they want to roll out 50 to 100 or more, we have the systems in place to do it, as opposed to trying to rush through 10 locations in a short period of time. So
Yeah. Probably a good step. I like that approach too, especially when you look at it. And we are seeing kind of these integrations with some of these specialty retailers for sure, kind of exploding in fast casual. So it's a great strategy. Let's talk a little bit about technology and its impact on how kind of food connects with it these days, and then how that, of course, has started to impact both to-go, third party, kind of this off-premise boom that the industry is experiencing. What are you guys doing around this space in terms of prepping the brand for technology and dealing with these on-demand, consumer issues?
Fortunately, we've been, I believe, on the forefront of that. But again, that doesn't mean we don't have to be aggressive in what we're looking at, and I'll back up on that. Back in 2016, we switched to a online ordering platform through the app. The first period, which I believe was in January, I think we did approximately $10,000 in sales through the phone and through the app. When I looked at sales last week as an example, I think it was close to $647,000 just through the app alone.
That's amazing.
It really is. It's a remarkable thing. The data, the number of, the information that we can go ahead and gather, catering the offers, to people. We have well over 500,000 people, on the app, what integrated them was a shift of the third line delivery platform. So it was just over a year ago, last October, we began testing the various platforms, which the DoorDash, Postmates, and such. We did a 3-month test. We decided to launch, system-wide in January. And believe it or not, if you take the combination of the app orders along with the third-party delivery system-wide through 160 locations, we're about 34% of our sales are represented through that platform.
Interesting. That's great. I mean, I like so for the online platform, I'm kind of curious because this is 2 different directions. Your app itself in that ecosystem, because that's the users that you have, along with third party. Have you found one that has been more effective for you with the brand, or is it kind of just a hit and miss for each?
They're 2 different experiences. One is the app is usually used for a speed of service type experience. For yourself, as an example, you wake up and you hit the app and you take your shower, and then you pull in Nekter, and they can either come out and drop the drink off to you, or you can walk in and grab it. And so there's really no disruption in your commute time and such. As it relates to the delivery platforms, that's when obviously we have the DoorDash and those people delivering the product. Sometimes, not sometimes, but clearly you worry about the experience, you worry about the quality of the product. The price is very expensive. And we'll see where the whole industry shakes out. It's not going anywhere, but as we know, it's very difficult for the restaurants. It's difficult for the delivery services to make money. It's more expensive for the consumers. So there will be a shift in that platform through consolidation of other
no
ways.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I think that's something that, we've talked about it frequently on this show, is that third party is really kind of at its last leg here for in the model that we know today. I think it will shift, and it just is going to have to get more creative in how it's dealing with that. With this technology phase that Nekter has gone through, obviously you've implemented a loyalty program, some car ordering technology. Kind of explain how those, why go especially the car ordering. I was kind of curious, why go that direction?
Such as BMW and such.
Exactly. So what was kind of the strategy there of, because that's a big jump. I don't know many of my own friends who drive many of those kinds of cars that have ever ordered from a dash of a vehicle. So do you see this just something that's coming down the pipe?
Yeah, I do. I think that again, I think that everything that we're experiencing and technology is evolving so quickly, and you've seen what's happened with Tesla over the last number of years. I happen to be a huge fan of Tesla, and I drive a Tesla, and you've got that big beautiful screen and the abilities that you can the things that allows the car to do are tremendous. And so therefore when we tested and are testing with BMW, the concept is, let's say that again you jump in your car and it knows you like a greenie as an example. It'll pop up on your screen and you press what you'd like to order or reorder.
Yeah.
And then you get a pop-up that it'll be ready in 10 minutes, and you just keep on driving. You don't have to grab your phone, take your hands off the wheel, really. And it's an interesting concept, or interesting platform. And I think that how the cars integrate into our life are simply evolving more rapidly than people realize. And so therefore, I think that you've got to have, if that provides another outlet for us to gain consumers, increase convenience, we're going to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I like the fact that you're taking the brand into some kind of uncharted territory. That's something we don't see a lot with fast casual concepts. So it's great to see those kind of movements. Let's talk about loyalty, because loyalty is one of those things that many brands are, they either do it really well and they've got a great loyal fan base, or brands really struggle with it. There's kind of no in between. What was it, do you feel, that has made your loyalty program so successful?
I think people underestimate what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish with the loyalty, meaning that are they trying to make it more convenient? Are they trying to just simply, are they doing it from a dynamic standpoint of trying to just generate more sales? And so for us, as you know, and you've had this on your podcast before, is things becoming more customizable. So therefore, if you are frequently buying a acai bowl, we're going to send you acai messages. We're going to send you educational, informational information that isn't a sales related, but it's a lifestyle resource. And so I think that too many loyalty programs rely solely on Star Chase, Order Now, BOGO, as opposed to if I can educate you just a little bit with short little tidbits about different tips to shift in your lifestyle that you might apply, I think then you can become more of a trusted voice for the consumer, and then they rely on you as that outlet. And I think that then translates into true loyalty.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so jumping to my last two topics, and one, of course, is sustainability. You guys seem to be the perfect poster child for a sustainable brand. What are some of the things and steps you're taking to kind of address that challenge? Because obviously the millennials and Gen Z, they're very woke when it comes to brands that get it, especially around sustainability and things that are better for the environment. What are you guys doing?
Again, that's an interesting topic that it's more wide-ranging than people think, in the sense of it's an important topic, one that we address, one not that's easily resolved, in the sense of, yes, say paper straws as an example, but as we all know, that fundamentally most people I know that use paper straws don't like them very much because they they fall apart.
Sure.
We have a variety of platforms that are related to that. One thing that people fail to understand or realize, and I'll give you an example, and it has to do with the developers in the sense of with our recycle platform or program, we're in a shopping plaza and we want to implement a recycle program, and we will speak to the landlord if the development wasn't set up for that, meaning they don't have the space for the dumpster and the trash and the recycle. It's about a $15,000 retrofit, And if they have a lot of retailers that maybe be dress or dry cleaner or such that don't use it, they're trying to justify the cost on how we can go ahead and do it. And so it's a multi-pronged approach. But again, I think it goes to the most important thing goes back to education of the guest, what we can do, for a sustainability, platform, returning their bottles, providing, compostable, bowls and straws and things like that. But I think it's an important, aspect. It's just more complicated, I think, than people think.
Yeah, it's some brands have kind of really went that direction, wholeheartedly, and then some brands obviously are still dealing with, I think some of the legacy brands especially that are kind of in a position where they're trying to retrofit in many cases, whether it's the operations, the systems that they're using, obviously packaging gets into it, all those kind of things. So for sure. All right, so let's talk about the last topic, and that is hiring. Obviously, labor, big hot point here in the food service business. Obviously, there's been some scrutiny of certain brands in their practices around hiring and how they're doing it. What are the processes that you guys are doing in terms of building a team? What's that kind of the magic there?
Well, I will say that the hiring, when we first started, say 10 years ago, give or take, it was much easier. The unemployment rate was much higher. We would have a job fair, get 100 people in line. Today, we might only have 3 people, show up to a job fair. So first of all, and that depends on the state, of course, but California is more problematic. But again, I think it's trying to integrate that, get that, team member into the, into the brand. And again, this is where I think a lot of brands make a mistake in the sense of, Paul, you may ask me, hey, what is your marketing campaign? What is your budget? You'll probably expect a LTO or a summer release or whatever. Sure. What we do is we have basically 2 marketing calendars, and they are equally as important. Frankly, I think the latter probably more so. We've got the consumer-facing marketing platform, but then we have the team member marketing platform, which is a campaign and a calendar laid out very similar to a traditional calendar, but it's aimed strictly at the team members in what we're trying to achieve with them, which is a lot of times it's shifted more from a monetary to experiential, in the sense of rather than monetize it by an upsell or whatever, they might win, movie tickets, to a pizza party. We might take them surfing or things of that nature, or just little thank yous and such. And we do it through a variety of different platforms, but the budget, I think, is equally is important. And I think some people take some of a caustic look at it and say, hey, we've got X turnover, we just got to accept it. And if they do a good job, and what I think people fail to realize sometimes, or really, feel in the sense of, there's no greater marketing that we could have than if you walked into a Nekter and the person's got a great smile on your face, you have quick service, you have a great drink, and they make you happy. You walk out happier than when you walk in. And if all of a sudden we try and cut corners with the team members, if we try and grind things too hard, if they walk in and they're kind of grumpy, they don't look you in the eye, they just pass the drink off to you, you're going to walk out and feel differently. So I think people underestimate the impact that people always talk about the guest experience. How much they actually really act on it is another story. So I think that you've got to back it up with a lot of different things. And if you do, then all of a sudden you get retention. All the stores that have, if you go through our stores, the ones that have the longest retention, always going to have the greatest comps.
Yeah. Greatest comp. Well, building the right team obviously does that. You get a core usually within any company, and those are the ones that kind of help dovetail in the others as they start to come into the system and really understand what the brand's about. So at a Nekter, you guys are up to 160 locations. What's the team load on an individual location? What does it take to staff one today?
A traditional location will have approximately, it hasn't really changed much, about 15 team members of varying degrees as far as how many, we'll start with maybe 2, grow to 3, then 4 and shift, and then scale it back down. So there's various, platforms we use as far as the staffing is concerned, but that's what a traditional location will look at.
Very cool. Steve, last question here. When you've made it to 10 years, so that's a big milestone for any fast casual brand. What would you say if you were trying to coach a young entrepreneur to say, hey, let's jump to the next level? I always like to hear what CEOs recommend for those coming into the space, what to watch out for. What would be your one tip?
We've made a lot of those mistakes, and again, they always say that for us, the important part was we went through phases where we thought we were big time now. We got to bring in people from Starbucks and experienced people to run the concept. And what we found was, when we were at 20 locations and made that decision, it really almost put it out of business, just because they didn't have the passion and the belief behind the product. We wanted people to get their hands dirty and be passionate about what we were doing. I think that there's a trickle down effect. That goes from me down to the executive staff, to the DMs, to the GMs, and so forth. But I think that for a traditional brand, I think they've got to take a deep breath. They've got to be self-aware enough to understand what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, understand their value of time, understand the real estate in the sense of, again, if you have one in Fort Lauderdale, I wouldn't suggest your second location goes in Tampa. I would suggest it goes so you can oversee it, say, in Miami. So there's a variety of things that people should do, and they need to look at other concepts, whether it be food related or not, and find out what the successful ones have done and what the ones that haven't, and if they've stalled, why have they stalled? Was it the concept, or was it the management on how they decided to grow and develop the brand? What obstacles they can exceed, and exercise that in a piece of paper, and meet with your executive staff and really try and find out more what you're doing wrong than what you're doing right.
Yeah, I like that step because you're right. So many brands do jump into getting high-powered teams in from various brands, and in many cases, you're right. The mismatch. I've seen it in so many brands where we see short-term CEO placements where they're less than 2 years. That usually indicates it's obvious a mismatch for where they came from and what that brand stands for. So it's happening in fast casual, and with the number of brands that are out there today, now we're at over 800 plus fast casual concepts in the US. That can definitely be a big factor. Hey, Steve, thanks so much for stopping in on the show today.
Hey, Paul, it's great to see you again, and I'll look forward to seeing you in May and in Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so for all of you listening in, whether you're over on iTunes or Spotify, make sure and leave us a review. You can drop us the star rating. And also, we like to kind of get that feedback to understand what we're missing in the show, or maybe some things that you'd like to see right here on Fast Casual Nation. And if you have an idea for a show, or maybe you have a fast casual concept that's in your community that is really killing it, shoot us an email to producer@foodabletv.com. And we'd love to have them on the show. So thanks again for stopping in on another episode of Fast Casual Nation.